Uh-oh, a zinger.
Always unafraid to ask the tough questions. John Cole would like to know what your feelings are on climbing on unrated devices. And I'll expand a little bit on that because I think I know what John's talking about. And John, if I'm wrong, feel free to comment and tell me that I misinterpreted your question. But the early rope wrench, ZK1s.
Sure.
Gordon does the Surveyor is making the Bulldog Bones, the early Akimbo models, early Rope Runner models. Obviously, as a manufacturer, you probably have a pretty hard line opinion on that, but you guys also do manufacture the rope wrench, which started as a garage project. What do you think about garage projects and their place in professional arborist industry?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and it brings up a whole bunch of things that we can all come together. We could spend 3 hours just on that. The fact is, all these unrated devices are one of the many things that I absolutely love about ARB. In my view, having worked with all the height disciplines now, in my view, nobody knows how to adapt a piece of equipment to the actual job they need to have done like an arborist technician. What I like to say is, hell, we buy a piece of equipment because it looks shiny. Typically, that's the truth. We buy it because it looks shiny, and we figure out how to use it later. And then we discover, oh, hell, I paid too much money for this. I don't actually have an application for it, so you invent an application for it. Now, this is one of the many reasons why every other height industry looks at arborists as a bunch of crazy cowboys. And in a certain aspect, that's not a bad thing, to a point. You really need to start looking at the overall system setup. And when I tell someone when they're learning how to tie a climbing hitch, I tell them you don't want to memorize what that hitch looks like. You want to know why it works. So in a rope wrench setup, I can take a rope wrench setup. Well, it's not set up, but when I look at a rope wrench setup, I realize that the life support in the system is the hitch. The hitch is still there in a rope wrench setup. All I'm doing is putting in something above it that's going to take friction off of my hitch. It's going to spread that out. Okay? So in my view, yes, we were involved with the rope wrench at a very, very early on. The second I saw the Fate revolver system from Mr. Bingham, I knew the world was going to change for us. And I'm thrilled that Kevin then took it the next step with the rope wrench. So I can look at the components of that system, see how they all work together, and what I would say, and this is sort of off the record on live TV, so I guess it's not exactly off the record. Between me, you, and everybody listening. What I would say is in a doubled rope setup, I test my hitch, I know my hitch is going to hold me, but then I go over a series of limbs. And I'm in a moving rope setup here. So every time I go over a limb, I'm incorporating more friction into the setup, which means my hitch is not seeing the same amount of friction here as it did when I was in a straight line to my anchor point. Well, the rope wrench eliminates that. So in the rope wrench setup, I still have the hitch as the primary life support, and that rope wrench completely and totally makes it so my hitch is consistent throughout no matter what I do. So looking at the components, and also we've got a heap of testing on this. There was a lot of questions about the actual testing that was done. I can assure you, this device has met every stipulation within EN 12841, other than the fact that it utilizes a hitch, and that's where the question comes in. So, taking that same philosophy and looking at some of the other devices, the Unisender. The Unisender was one of the first, well, the first, really, multi-sending device out there that had the ability to ascend and descend. And when you look at how that functions and the way that that creates friction on the line, you can see what it does. You can see how it operates. You can see where the potential issues are if the coils come out. So you can put numbers on it, you can test it, you can run it through all the various standards to test it, but instinctively an arborist can look at that and know. So with the Bulldog Bone, with the Rope Runner, all those devices, there is an element of that, of not being rated. But at the same time, you can sort of see how they work. So I sort of didn't answer that question, but sort of, the fact is, for me personally, I just like the performance of a hitch over a mechanical.
The key is to just talk for at least 3 minutes after you're asked a question, and that'll almost always constitute an answer. So
no matter what you say.